Fraedom brand and offering might seem to some to be a pretty dramatic move, but is this more really a case of evolution rather than revolution?
Yes, I would say it definitely is. Hogg Robinson, from a travel perspective, has been involved in technology ever since day one. Travel is an extremely automated business. It's designed that way because of the way people have to move around the world. And the evolution of us moving into expense and the way that we were due to work with payments, as we'll talk about later, is a natural way that our business has progressed. We've had an internal IT team now for probably 30 years. And we've basically grown that and evolved into a business sector where technology has now become a key focus of ours rather than just being a service business.
We can all see the impact of the internet upon consumer travel purchasing, but are there any parallels through into the commercial corporate market?
There is a parallel in it because very much, you see today, there's this much hacked word called consumerization, which is starting to impact the way that we operate as businesses as well. And this is the way we use technology at home, the way the younger generation uses it is starting to become more prevalent in the business sectors now. The internet came online, as we know, several years ago, sort of turn of 2000, 2001 from a business perspective. And we were, at that time, watching to see how that would start to impact the corporate travel side of business. We started up a small team internally, about 3 or 4 of us, to actually start looking at how we could create our services and build them into an online presence over the internet. Corporate travel started becoming one of the very early adopters of basically, instead of picking up the phone and calling people, up came a browser on the client's desktop and they would start looking and browsing and booking their own travel services. So the internet has started to have and has had an impact on corporate travel, and we've adapted to that either by reducing our network coverage as people picking up the phones, and actually starting to introduce and work with other third-party players who can deliver technology to our clients' desktops to enable them to start doing more self-service. And this has been a key factor for the Hogg Robinson Group as we move forwards.
Can you talk about how Hogg Robinson got involved in expenses management and payment technologies?
Yes, absolutely. Right at the turn of 2000, as I mentioned earlier, we were working on a booking service for hotels that corporates could actually use. We started working with a client in Australia who was very keen to start introducing expense management into this process. And in a very short space of time, we got into developing a complete booking tool for him, from air, hotel, car and rail services. But the expense component was missing. So I basically had a trip around the globe to try and find people that were working in this software as a service area, like us, in a similar technology form, like us, Microsoft derived. And I bumped into these couple of guys from, as it was then called, MyPcard. We got together talking and we joined forces to deliver this product to this particular client. I liked the company so much that we decided to take an investment in it. And that investment has grown from that point. So into Spend Vision, and we increased our investment and finally taken the company over completely a few years ago. And that's where Fraedom was derived from. So that's how we got into expense management and payment processes at Hogg Robinson.
There's a lot of noise at the moment in the technology industry about software as a service. Can you talk about how Fraedom is provided to its customers and how this may enable you to grow the business more rapidly than perhaps might normally be the case?
Sure. So software as a service is becoming more and more prevalent in the technology industry, quite simply because it allows the IT buyer to reduce the risk and cost of ownership, while at the same time allows their organization or their corporations to be able to scale on that platform fairly quickly. Fraedom has been in the software as a service business since 1999. In fact, we were the first to market with an expense tool in the cloud. Back then it was called ASP. The unique thing about our go-to-market strategy is it's twofold. We take our technology and we sell it direct to end corporates, while at the same time we also take our technology and we rebrand it under a white label version for many of our banking partners, and then they take that and sell that onto their indirect corporates. And in doing so, we've been able to scale our business up, so much so where we've got roughly around 134,000 businesses globally that access our technology on any given day.
Fraedom isn't just about travel management, it extends into payments too. Can you tell us more about this side of the business and the advantages that it provides to you and to your customers?
Sure. So as I explained earlier, we tend to focus quite heavily on our partner distribution model, and that's where we take our technology and we reskin it under a banking's brand. And in order for us to do that, we have to be able to do some deep integrations into what's known as the card processor. So that's where effectively the money flows. That's one of the key unique differences between what we do and many of our contemporaries in this space, and our ability to set controls on these payment networks, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, or American Express, is what allows us to control money flows. We can increase credit limits, we can issue cards, and we can help companies post their statements online. That's the first intro for many banks and many of our corporate organizations when they're looking to control and get better visibility over where they're spending money.
How does Fraedom work with credit and other payment card providers, and what benefits does Fraedom bring to them and to their customers?
So most organizations, when they're looking to adopt or embrace a technology offering in the expense management space, tend to focus quite simply on sort of the big four commodities around air, travel, hotels, and transportation. As you move, as an organization looks to drive more cost efficiencies out of their payables process, they tend to focus more readily on commodities that sit outside of those typical four key travel commodities. That's where Fraedom can help companies really drive value around the internal administration to pay for these commodities. And so our ability to, I guess, tackle the card payment networks and work with our banking partners to provide solutions that allow companies to more efficiently pay for goods and services at the end of the day.
The industry is changing fast and has changed a lot in the last decade. How do you think the business is going to change over the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. The next 5 years for us is one very much focused on where we can get on alongside digitized payments. When we first got into the payment side of it, this was very much along the lines of we were extracting and we were receiving card feeds from a lot of our banking partners, as they are now, and card companies to reconcile people's expenses. We took a solution back to the providers of these services saying, look, we can actually provide services back to you because we're feeding this. We can give you online statement production about your cards that you could take to your banking partners. Going forwards, we see very much the payment side of that becoming how we will start to offer more services as Fraedom to our partner areas. There's a fantastic figure out there of $110 trillion worth of B2B spend. We see ourselves growing along that line. Today we're in expenses, today we're moving into payments, we are in payments, we're expanding into that sector, and we see ourselves getting into the position where we can take more and more of a slice of that value. When we will look at more products and services that we can offer into our banking areas, more ways that we can automate travel to make it simpler, and of course make sure the expense product, which is crucial to us, is able to be the most simple and best used product on market.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would probably add to Bill's point is the idea of this thing called frictionless payments. As technology evolves and becomes more readily accessible in the cloud, and AI, so artificial intelligence, starts driving more and more of this innovation, we have an ability to take the information that's out there, whether it's credit terms, whether it's supplier organizations and buyer organizations, bringing them together to be able to make predictive sort of statements to our customers that says, on this given day, for this payment amount for this supplier, these are the payment instruments that you should be using. And to a CFO or financial manager, really what they're trying to do is drive as much securitization across their credit, the available credit that they have, and the cash flows that they have, in order to create more value in terms of their entire treasury offering.